All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I am Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick on a joyous Sunday evening in the second quarter of Jacksonville. Baltimore Jags are missing field goals for fun at the moment. Lamar Jackson, as we speak, is marching down the field, so I won't be able to comment as much on that game and its repercussions, but we can talk about everything else. Lamar Jackson's just thrown an interception, Drew. It's good news for Mr. Purdy. We can talk about everything else, Saturday games, Sunday games. What was your big takeaway from the weekend?
How about the Celtics, Jay?
The magic curse is finally broken.
The magic curse is broken. The runway is clear for the Celtics to take off and win a ship. No, the football went poorly for me. I didn't have like an all-time meltdown type of weekend, which is why I'm in good spirits right now instead of, like just literally burying my head in the, in the pillows and trying to keep it together. Sides went poorly for me this week. I think I'm 1-2-1 so far on sides, and totals I'm 1-1. And the loss on the total was probably the most infuriating and tilting total loss I've had in a while, where Colts-Steelers is going under, Jay. It's going under. They missed a field goal. It's over. That game is going under. And for some reason, even though Gardner Minshew took a knee, the absolute atrocity of a head coach that is Mike Tomlin decided to call timeout. And honestly, like, I didn't in the moment. I was like trying to rationalize, why would you do that? Like, what is possibly, like, you're hoping you're going to get a fumble, I guess, and that's going to give you a chance to get back in this game. And then I lost the thread, and I was like, nah, this is nonsense. Like, I really didn't understand why he called those timeouts. The Jags kick a field goal. That game gets to 43. That hurt. Otherwise, it was not an especially good weekend for me. At least I didn't even really have to sweat the two of the worst plays I've made all season. One was the Jets. The Jets got shut out, Jay. I'm not sure if you saw that. You know what? Hey, when you lose your starting quarterback to a head injury, like, it is what it is, right? Like, you're at the tail end of luck sometimes. And if Zach Wilson had played a full 4 quarters of that game, maybe they only lose by 26 instead of 30. Who knows? But it was not a competitive football game against the Dolphins, and the Jets were extremely the wrong side. And add that to the list of wrong sides that I backed, including Packers. Oh my goodness gracious! I thought the Packers were going to bounce back this week, Jay. What was that? That Packers defensive performance was so horrifically lousy. I am literally struggling to wrap my brain around why I ever thought they could get anything done ever. It's been a bizarre week. Week 15 has been insane. It started with the Las Vegas Raiders scoring 63 points, and it's going to end with, potentially the Jags upsetting the Ravens. So, who knows how this ultimately breaks down, but it's been a weird week, and I feel like I was a little too I don't know. I didn't feel great about the card, so I don't even really know what to make out of these results, other than, as you said very, very eloquently, we are headed for a Brock Purdy MVP, which is well deserved. And the sooner people just wrap their brains around it, the better it is for all of us.
Yeah, well, yeah, I certainly hope so. And it's going to, if Purdy beats Lamar and then doesn't win MVP, it will be a proper disgrace and poor reflection upon your country, frankly, because Australians don't vote on this, so this will be entirely on you. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens in San Francisco, Baltimore, because that's going to go a long way to deciding everything. Drew, the week doesn't end with Jacksonville, Baltimore. It might end with Marcus Mariota against Drew Lock on Monday Night Football. And we'll talk about that game at the end. We'll talk about the openers as well. But my big takeaway from these past 2 days of games, and it's a very obvious thing to say, but we're so conditioned about how we think about teams based on their opposition. And then there are just light bulb games where a team plays a significant upgrade or downgrade in competition, and then just kind of mentally, visually, it all clicks. And as soon as Jake Browning started playing against a real defense in Minnesota, started to realize that, yeah, this guy's not a top 10 quarterback. As soon as the Cowboys went outside against Buffalo, playing not even a good defense. Buffalo's so banged up at the moment, but they're a more competent defense than what the Cowboys have been seemingly playing for a couple of months now. And I think more importantly, they're just outdoors, and just the sport is so vastly different in a dome versus outdoors. Think about how Gardner Minshew looked in the dome against the Steelers. Looks like he's just going to march down the field every single time without Michael Pittman, without Jonathan Taylor, without Braden Smith. Didn't matter. He's got TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith in his face every single time, just in the dome. He looks like Kurt Warner. Compare that to how he looked outdoors against the Bengals, who have a worse defense than the Steelers. Admittedly, the Steelers lost both of their safeties, and that helped Gardner Minshew a lot. But I think the team that this applies most to certainly is Dallas, who came into the weekend as the consensus second best team, perhaps by margin, in the NFC. I don't think that is at all clear anymore after whatever they did against Buffalo. I think that it's aggressive. It's often aggressive to overreact off of one game, but I think you can pretty much put a line through Dak Prescott to an MVP after that. And we talked about for the past couple of weeks how his case was this bubble that was floating,
fragile,
and had all of these pointy things from the ceiling, and any one of them was going to pop it. And I always thought Dak could withstand one loss, but not like that. Not getting absolutely embarrassed where he could have thrown 5 interceptions today. He had 2 that were dropped, and then 1 was caught, and then there were another 2 which could have been caught. They would have been good plays, but that was my biggest takeaway. I think less so about Buffalo on the positive side and more just Dallas on the negative side, looking like the same team that they've been come the playoffs the past couple of years.
Yeah. I was entertaining. We had a holiday party at my house, so I wasn't watching every single play. But the plays that I did watch, I counted 5 turnover-worthy plays, and one of them got caught. That's bad. And the overall outcome, and people kind of realizing like, hey, oh wait, did we overrate you because you spent 3 weeks in a row at home playing horrific defenses? Obviously, yes. Obviously. I mean, goodness gracious. Like if you held up 2 outcomes and you were like, did Dak Prescott make a leap, or was it opponent adjusted and a factor of being at home? Like there is very, very clear breadcrumbs for this, and I'm glad I saw those and was not kind of fooled. I did not see the breadcrumbs that Zach Wilson was going to turn back into a pumpkin, or that Tommy DeVito was going to turn back into a pumpkin. My God, the Saints as a bet today was like, that was low hanging fruit, and I missed it, and I'm pissed. But there was a healthy amount of not competitive players and teams and units that showed their true colors today, and that's what I'm going to take away the most clearly. And ultimately, Dak Prescott and the Cowboys offense, like, are they good enough to still compete for an NFC East? We'll get to the Eagles, who are not right. No, the Eagles just elevated Matt Patricia. Jay, that's a cry for help. That's what I would interpret as a sign of extreme challenge that they're going through. So the Cowboys could still win the NFC East. They could still get the 2 seed, in which case I would still expect them to be the opponent for the Niners in the NFC Championship game. But boy, oh boy, does it feel like we are light years in terms of separation between what the Niners are doing right now and what the Cowboys are doing.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are done for the division just because of the schedules and the fact that the Eagles are almost certain to have the tiebreak no matter what. So it's not just that the Eagles have to lose to Seattle, which is very doable. They could absolutely lose that game, but then they have to lose either a game against Tommy DeVito or Tyrod Taylor. They've got 2 games against the Giants, or they have to lose to a Cardinals team that just cannot stop anything. And in addition to that, Dallas would have to win out, and that win out includes winning at Miami, where they're underdogs, and then home to Detroit, who look like a real team again. And that's the other thing I wanted to touch on. Not so much Detroit, but the other side of that one with the Broncos, who I think, in a way, just from a betting perspective and how we think about individual teams in the NFL, are one of the most interesting teams in the league, just because they had such a viciously bad start to the season where they lose 35-33 at home to the Commanders. They lose, obviously, 70-20 at Miami, and just how much of those losses informed, it just kind of hung on in the data, and how much we thought about that team versus how much was correctly, incorrectly thrown out. And then also just how much was sustainable about what they were doing on that streak where they won 6 out of 7. And a lot of that was done with a defense that was really poor in terms of success rate, at least relative to EPA, which always hinted that it was unsustainable. And then you look at the opponents they played in this win streak they played Mahomes on an IV when he wasn't himself. They played Jordan Love, who apparently isn't good again. They beat Buffalo, but that was a very strange game where there was a fluky pick and bouncing off hands with Josh Allen, and then they should have lost the game at the end, if not for the penalty. Beat Josh Dobbs, who was benched a couple of weeks later, Stroud and a banged-up Texans team. And then Easton Stick. And it's like, all right, well, what really is this team? And then they come up against the Lions team, who were just built in a lab to exploit Denver, because Denver, all throughout the season, haven't been able to stop the run at all. And then you got the Lions coming in with a fully healthy offensive line again, and Jahmyr Gibbs and Dave Montgomery, and they run for 6.6 yards per carry. And there's just nothing at all that Denver can do. So, happy to finally close the door on Sean Payton Coach of the Year, which would have gotten a little bit sticky had they won that game. And we're looking to close the season 11-6 after starting 2-5, but that is officially done. They can still make the playoffs, but with just seemingly every AFC wildcard contender today winning, it seems like that'll be an uphill battle as well. All right, anything else to touch on the slate before we go to the openers?
No, I'm really glad you brought up the Broncos. I thought that entire monologue was extremely well said. And I honestly think that the teams that lost on Saturday, considering the rest of the results on Sunday, those were effectively playoff games. Like the Vikings having lost, that's huge. The Steelers lost, effectively eliminates them. The Broncos lost, puts them in deep, deep trouble. Like, I think, and honestly, like, those results felt right, like correct, right? There wasn't anything fluky about the way that things transpired there. Like, the better teams won, and I think we are better off if the Vikings and Steelers and Broncos, position for 2024, because I don't really want to see any of those teams in the playoffs, if we're being honest.
Not with Nick Mullins. I think Nick Mullins is like 0.18 positive EPA per play, and that's the most fraudulent stat I've seen. Because he was absolutely horrific.
Oh, that was not good by him.
Yeah. I will go to my grave thinking that the Vikings, had they stuck with Josh Dobbs, they would have had a real chance to win this division down the stretch, because he never got a full half with Justin Jefferson, who just changes so much about the offense. I think Mullins is just dreadful, and he cost them that game with those two red zone picks, and even the touchdown that he threw to Jordan Anderson was kind of a ridiculous play. But no, I agree. I think the 3 correct teams won.
Jay, you conveniently left off the fact that he threw a pick 6 that got wiped off the board.
That's true. Yes, I do recall that one. As someone who Needed the Vikings longer term and needed Bengals on the day. I was kind of conflicted by that whole game, but that was kind of a good summation of the Nick Mullins experience. Just very conflicting all around. Last thing I wanted to say, and then we can move on, is that I just think it's funny that TJ Watt got 2 sacks on Saturday against the Colts, and Mitch Trubisky has nothing to do with TJ Watt and how he plays defense and the level that he plays. If Mitch Trubisky the past 2 weeks had been a 5 out of 10, TJ Watt is your runaway defensive player of the year favorite. And because Mitch Trubisky was dreadful at 0 out of 10, TJ Watt feels like he's drawing dead for that award versus being a runaway favorite because of the vibes about the team, which are largely just conjured up by the quarterback being terrible.
That and the coach making just horrific. The quarterback being terrible and the coach being
he has seemed to have lost a step. But anyway, I don't think TJ Watt should win Defensive Player of the Year anyway. But by the market and by the masses, he would have been your runaway favorite had they won these past 2 games. And instead, it feels like that team has. They feel like the most in terms of vibes at the moment. They feel like number 32 in the NFL. They are the most poisonous team in the league. Now the Carolina got to win today.
Yeah, they got beat by the Patriots.
They got beat by the Cardinals.
Yeah, they got beat by the Cardinals and Patriots, and now the Colts. The Steelers are, if they're not mentally 32nd, they should be pretty dang close. I mean, quarterback efficiency aside, like they're beatable. They're beatable in a number of ways, and honestly, them getting to 13 points was flattering. It took a freaking blocked punt for them to get to 13. Jay, it's not good. It's not good enough. Definitely not good enough on the road.
Colts dropped a wide open 100th percentile easy pass on 4th and 1 with the goal, and they had a block punt for a touchdown effectively, and they still won 30-13. Yeah, like if those 2 plays go differently, it's 30. Well, I guess they scored the touchdown pretty immediately after, but that could have been a lot worse. Anyway, I want to get to the Colts straight away after this, but first unwrap an early Christmas present. Drew, this Saturday with an NFL doubleheader at 3 p.m. Eastern as we take you up to kickoff in Pittsburgh between the Bengals and Steelers on NBC and Peacock. Then at 7:30, it's a Peacock exclusive matchup as Josh Allen and the Bills look to stay in the postseason mix when they travel to Los Angeles to face the Chargers, who do not have a designated player for me to read out in this promo, which shows you where they are at the moment. But the non-distinct LA Chargers will take on Josh Allen and the Bills.
One would imagine that Zion plays in that game. Who knows, though?
Yeah, we'll see. All right, week 16 opener. So the one that immediately leapt out to me is the Colts can't be dogs at Atlanta. After what the Falcons have showed, I mean, really all season, particularly recently, though. And I understand that, it's the Colts, but the Colts have shown that they can reach a serviceable level on offense and defense. Michael Pittman, I'm going to guess that he plays, given that walked off the field on his own power, always a good thing, said after the game that he felt fine, and they have an extra day break. And also the season's on the line. Looks like Jonathan Taylor will be back as well for that one. So I would think the Colts should be favored here, Drew.
Yeah, the Colts are for real. They can go on the road, especially in a dome. I'm not worried about them at all in that spot. Colts are the right side. That is trending to 2.5 Colts. And I would say that I would say, but like, you know what it means. Like, you know what that means though. Like until it gets to 3, that's still about the same bet, which is that the Colts are going to be competitive in this game. And I'm not stopping anyone from saying that. I mean, Shane Steichen still is a very good coach. He is legitimately elevating a roster that has zero business in the mix for a playoff spot. And I am perfectly fine going to war with someone like Steichen against someone like Art Smith, who managed 7 points today against a pretty healthy Panthers team. And like, I have mixed thoughts because I had a Panthers bet today. Actually, the only side I won all day so far until we get the result here on Baltimore was Panthers. So this could that could be the one kind of sweep breaker for me. So it's tricky, but yeah, ultimately like the Panthers didn't deserve to win that game. They scored 9 points. They had they had no touchdowns. That's not good. And honestly, like the weather was a factor, all of those sort of things. But Indianapolis is a class above Atlanta. I don't think it's a 3-point game. And if you can get under a 3, I think that's a fair play. The rest of there's a lot of other games that like really kind of raise my eyebrows. And are fun to talk about. Saturday's game between Cincy and Pittsburgh is a fun one to talk about because, as you kind of brought up, Pittsburgh's probably third. They like people are maybe blinded by the idea that they won 7 games this year. So, well, how could you make them the 32nd best team if they won 7 games this year? Well, they should be in that mix. Like they are at the basement right now in terms of how to rate a team. And I would expect that Cincinnati probably moves to 3. Cincinnati and the Jake Browning experience, like this week was a lot of backup quarterbacks turning into pumpkins.
Yeah.
Tommy DeVito, Zach Wilson. We could go on and on. Like there were a lot of guys who did not belong out there, and they showed it. Yeah. Mitch Trubisky. There was a lot of guys that did not belong out there, and they showed it. Right? Jake Browning was not one of those guys. He
wasn't great, but he did enough at the end. I mean, he had 3 points in 3 quarters, effectively, against the Vikings defense that is very, very good, but shouldn't be holding you to 3 points in 3 quarters. But I mean, down the end, he marched them down, 3 touchdowns consecutively. T. Higgins' play was a little fluky, but it's not like it should have been a pick or anything. And I think that's a chance you take in that situation. So I thought he was fine. I thought there was scope that maybe Jake Browning is just the 10th best quarterback in the NFL. I don't think that is really viable after the 4-game sample that we have now. But I do think it's viable that he's significantly better than whoever Pittsburgh put out at quarterback. In fact, it's very likely.
Mason Rudolph, probably, right?
Well, I don't know, man. I don't know. Trubisky was very bad in the Colts game. I thought he was better, honestly, like significantly better than he was in the Patriots game.
Yeah,
but he was still terrible.
We could spend the entire pod talking about Tomlin's panic at the end of the Colts game, which was just embarrassing, honestly. Yeah. And him seeing Trubisky throw the pick and then being like, "All right, Mason, you're up. Go get him, buddy." And Mason Rudolph running out and being like, "Okay, I'm comfortable throwing the 2-yard dump off. The 2-yard dump off. How about the 2-yard dump off?" Like he was literally only looking for one play as he was out there, which meant he was not prepared to be out there. He was not ready to go. I don't know that a week of preparation changes that at all. And the Cincinnati defense still has some teeth. So I think they ultimately go to 3. I don't mind them at 2.5 on the road even. I think as I look down the rest of the slate, the game that I'm most interested to try to handicap is what happens with Detroit heading to Minnesota, because this game matters a lot, right? Like this was a big weekend for Detroit. Like Minnesota lost, Green Bay lost, Detroit won. Like it's pretty much over. Like it's going to be very, very, very hard right now for Detroit to let this slip through their fingers. And if they come out and they play a focused, really like just a focused game of football against Minnesota, who's reeling, you probably are in position to lock up 3 seed, maybe even steal a 2 seed, which is interesting to kind of contemplate. Detroit right now is like kind of intriguing watching that market as Minnesota is 3-point dogs at home. The rest of the slate is kind of only really circle Houston at 2.5 at home against Cleveland, because there is a potential that CJ Stroud comes back. And honestly, Case Keenum was horrible today.
Yeah.
But he won. And people, I don't really know what to make of that. Was that an indictment of Tennessee, or was that just that the pieces around on Houston all really care and they try hard? They're going to play a full 60 or into overtime. like to the end of overtime even. But like that was the kind of setup where Houston loses by margin, and they fought hard and they took to overtime and they won. And now if you inject CJ Stroud into that type of environment, then I could see them, getting a pretty comfortable win. So interested to see what's going on with that market, because Cleveland's defense on the road, not as good. Cleveland's defense also was, they were a little beat at times today against the Bears. And, I'm curious to see what the health of anyone on Cleveland is, particularly on that offense, as they have now lost. Pochich didn't play. He was their starting center. Petonio went out in the game. Like this is the most significant cluster injury on the offensive line I can ever remember, honestly.
What about on the defense? They lose off their defense as well.
Sure.
Particularly with Delpit going down. Thornhill missed today. Denzel Ward finally came back. But it's an interesting one. Both of those teams are really banged up. Like I assume Stroud is coming back, but is anyone coming with him? Is Nico Collins coming back? Is Will Anderson coming back? Is Blake Cashman's hamstring going to be the 3-week thing? Like they are missing a ton of players as well. And I do worry that I think it's a pretty big red flag exactly how bad that offense looked against the Jets and how bad they looked previously against other strong defenses and strong pass defenses, like how they played against Denver a couple of weeks ago, where they really struggled, how they played against. They had to pick Russell Wilson's 3 times to beat Denver at home by 5. That's not good. And they were way healthier in that game. So I think a little out on the Texans. We'll see. And they should be favored in this game because Joe Flacco's on the other side with no offensive line. But I'm a little bit worried about how the offense will perform. Couple quick ones. One, as I'm looking at it now, Dallas, Miami is still pick some spots. I think the Dolphins should be favored in that game. And it's not just because Dallas looked terrible today. It's just that the Dolphins are going to get a lot healthier, I think, over the next 7 days. Expect that Tyreek will be back, Javon Holland, Deshaun Elliott, both of their safeties will be back. Robert Hunt as well, I think, has a chance to come back and just give them a little bit more on the offensive line. So I think that they should be favored there. And then Detroit, Minnesota. That's interesting. When the Vikings were up by 2 scores late and it seemed like they were just going to cruise to a double-digit victory, and this was before, obviously, Detroit had beaten Denver, I was thinking about the game. I was talking with a friend about what the line would be there, and I was thinking pick or Detroit -1. And then the Vikings completely implode and Detroit win 42-17, and voila, Detroit are -3. And I think that is probably fair and may even go to 3.5 if anything. Any other game to touch on?
Yeah, one big one. Jets are favored by 3.
Yeah, just looking at that.
It's the Commanders.
No respect for Aaron Rodgers these days, Drew.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
He's not going to play.
Right?
He's not going to play. He was never going to play. He wasn't. They say he's going to be cleared for medical contact.
We have to go from analyst for a hot second to just like opinion on this, right?
Yeah.
Like,
my opinion is he was never going to play.
My opinion is he was never going to play also. But like, he's going to get cleared this week. There's going to be a hullabaloo. Like, ultimately, this is Trevor Siemian, right?
I'm not sure.
But Trevor Siemian is laying 3?
Yeah.
That can't be right.
No, that can't be right. The Jets can't be favored over anyone if they have, Tim Boyle's gone now, but if they have Trevor Siemian or Tim Boyle or whoever the next cardboard cutout of Tim Boyle is, Brett Rippon, right? Brett Rippon's on the team now. So
Brett Rippon's on the team now.
Like those guys, they can't be favored. And as good as the Jets defense is, the offense, it's just not viable. It's not a professional offense at this point. But
Jacoby Brissett finished the game for the Commanders.
Look great. Yeah.
He looks great.
Yeah. He's a problem. I'm worried about him for our Niners in 2 weeks. I don't want to see Jacoby.
No, if he starts this game, isn't it Commanders -3 on the road?
Yeah.
Against
probably
Trevor Siemian. Jacoby Brissett starts against Trevor Siemian. 2.5 to 3-point favorite on the road, in my opinion.
Yeah, it might be 1. I don't know. The Jets defense is still really good, notwithstanding what happened today. But and so going up against the Commanders and their lines, both of those lines. The Commanders aren't very good, but I agree. If we're getting like a not real quarterback, I would think the Commanders have to be favored in that game. Just lastly on Rodgers, there was always a smoking gun in all of these reports. And when the Schefter article came about how he's going to be medically cleared, same article said that he hasn't yet had to practice avoiding pass rushes or moving around the pocket. It's like, how's the guy going to play an NFL game in 7 days? It's completely meaningless. Even if they won today, they weren't going to make the playoffs. They were an 11% chance to make the playoffs if they won out. It was never going to happen. Everyone knows these games were meaningless. He was never going to play unless the ego is such that he needed to prove it to himself to get back out there, and the team was going to let its franchise quarterback for next season potentially end his career out there for no reason whatsoever. I guess maybe that could have happened, but I don't know. I have to imagine it's completely.
Jets are officially eliminated.
Yes, so now it's completely done. So we shouldn't have to concern ourselves with the A-Rod until 2024. Anyway, let's get to
Chris. You know, Jay, it's a Christmas miracle.
Aaron Rodgers.
No, we don't have to talk about Aaron Rodgers for Christmas. Thank God.
Yeah, no, I abandoned my lifelong Jets fandom of a couple of months after the team signed Aaron Rodgers. I just can't do it. I just can't deal with that.
Isaiah Likely anytime touchdown is good.
There you go. All right, this holiday season, get the fantasy fan in your life, the exclusive Roto-World Draft Guide bundle featuring expert analytics, player insights, and season-long tools. Get all 3 of the Draft Guide bundles for one low price. Go to NBCSports.com/holiday bundle and use code HOLIDAY23 at checkout to receive 25% off and a $10 Fanatics e-gift card. All right, Eagles -3 at Seattle. Total is 45 flat as we are recording. Now, it's difficult to speak about this game because we don't know if Jalen Hurts is going to go. Don't know if Geno Smith is going to go either. But my main thought about this game, Drew, and it kind of surfaced during both of the recent Trubisky starts, is when there is uncertainty at quarterback with a backup who we don't know if he's just completely cooked or not, the live market never reacts quickly enough. When Easton Stick, the 2 series in, it was very clear that Easton Stick was way over his head. And that game, he wasn't going to be able to do it, barring some dramatic change in output. And the live line was still just running off what the pregame spread was telling it to run off. And I don't know. It's difficult to just say after seeing 2 series that the line should be 2 points different off of what it closed at if you were to redo it again. But I think that those are the times to take those types of shots against the market because the market isn't willing to just abandon its prior. And I think with Marcus Mariota, like there is a chance based on what he looked like in preseason, there is a chance that he is just completely shot. And that would be the way that I'd be betting this game. It's just watching the first 2 series and seeing what Mariota looks like and if he's viable, and if not, betting the Seattle alternate spreads.
Yeah, I kind of want Seattle pre-flop. This is honestly, man, like we're at week 15. It's the holiday season. We don't need to put people through mental anguish. This is a game being quarterbacked by question mark versus question mark, which is to say that if you're betting into this market, you are literally gambling on who the available quarterbacks will be. If Geno Smith ultimately is surprise scratch and Jalen Hurts is a surprise feels better, then you are absolutely cooked betting the Seahawks. And I think you are looking at this game in this market as Seahawks or pass. The idea that if Mariota is out there for the Eagles, that they should be 3-point favorites on the road is absolutely insane to me. Truly insane. This Eagles defense is an absolute shell of what they were at their best. And the offense right now has some injury issues combined with, only 2 now kind of meaningful playmakers in Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. And if this is at full strength, then yeah, like 3.5 for the Eagles, completely fair. And I'm just stay away. But if you're going to give me a big old price on Seahawks in this game, I'm going to really sincerely think about it. I don't really understand this other than somebody has an expectation that Hurts ultimately goes. Because if this is Mariota versus Geno Smith or Drew Lock laying 3 on the road, I can't square that number. I can't even come close, honestly.
No, I mean it should be flipped the other way, I would
Yeah.
think. And also the thing with Drew Lock is that like Drew Lock's not good, but Drew Lock's an above average backup quarterback, I would say. Like I'm very confident that Drew Lock isn't going to just be a complete pumpkin out there against the Eagles' dreadful pass defense. That, by the way, is dreadful and now lost Darius Slay, who's their best cornerback, and now they've got nothing at corner. Also, Zach Cunningham. You see what the Eagles' defense looked like without Zach Cunningham against the 49ers? Like, there's nothing there. So I think they're just drawing dead against the pass. I don't think Matt Patricia is going to fix it in 3 days or whatever. So, yeah, I would expect that if Mariota goes, that this line is completely flipped the other way. I would also expect that Jalen Hurts is probably going to play, though. It was just based on the reporting, based on what the market is saying. And then I think it's probably going to be Hurts against Lock. And I would say that Hurts is more likely to play than Geno. Again, that's just speculating, but that seems to be what the market thinks too.
That's fair. I guess if there's last minute news that Hurts is a go and that Geno is a go, then this is probably a total that's a hair too low. And in that world, I'm playing it over. But this has crashed all the way to 45, not because of weather, but because of quarterback uncertainty. And I agree with that. I think that should be 47 if this is Geno v. Hurts.
Yep. And that makes sense to me. All right, we are done. Don't forget to check out NBCSports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks for those of you watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Also a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. From Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick. We'll see you tomorrow.